1998, Yahoo had one chance to buy Google for $1 million, and kill the only company that could destroy them. They passed. 3 years later, Yahoo had a second chance. Google had grown. The price had risen to $3 billion. Yahoo's CEO, Terry Semel, spent months negotiating, flew his team to Google's offices, reviewed every number, then pulled out of the deal at the last minute, because he thought $3 billion was too much. Google went public in 2004, at $85 per share. Today it trades above $170, and the company is worth $2 trillion. Yahoo sold itself to Verizon, in 2017, for $4.5 billion, less than the price they refused to pay for Google in 2002. The company that laughed at Page and Brin, sold itself for less than the price tag they rejected. Larry Page and Sergey Brin were not startup founders. They were graduate students who built something accidentally useful, and spent 3 years trying to get rid of it. Larry Page was born in East Lansing, Michigan in 1973. His father was a computer science professor at Michigan State. His mother taught computer programming. He grew up in a house full of computers and science magazines, at a time when most American households had neither. By the time he reached Stanford's PhD program in computer science, he had spent his entire life inside academic institutions built around one idea: information should be organized, searchable, and accessible. Sergey Brin was born in Moscow in 1973. His father was a mathematics professor. His family emigrated to the United States in 1979. When Brin was 6, his father had been denied a research position in the Soviet Union, because he was Jewish. Brin grew up in Maryland, enrolled at the University of Maryland at 14, and arrived at Stanford's graduate program at 19. They met during orientation in 1995. Larry was considering Stanford. Brin was assigned to show him around. By their own accounts, they disagreed on almost everything in those first conversations. Within a year, they were sharing an office and building the most important search engine in internet history together. Their starting point was a research project called Bankrupt, a system that analyzed the links between websites to determine which pages were most authoritative on any given topic. Every other search engine ranked results by how many times a keyword appeared on a page. Larry and Brin ranked results by how many other credible pages linked to them. The difference in quality was immediately obvious to anyone who used both. They never planned to build a company. They planned to finish their PhDs. Before Google became inevitable, it was a graduate school project that nobody wanted to buy. The first rejection came from Yahoo. In 1997, Larry and Brin approached Yahoo's founders, Jerry Yang and David Filo, both Stanford graduates themselves, and offered to license their search technology for $1 million. Yang and Filo looked at it. Passed. Yahoo had its own search product, and didn't want a competitor's technology making it look inferior. The second rejection came from Excite. In 1999, Larry and Brin approached Excite CEO, George Bell, with an offer to sell Google outright for $750,000, reduced from $1 million because they needed the deal done. Bell tested the product. It worked noticeably better than Excite's own search engine. He rejected it anyway. His reasoning, documented by people in the room: if Google worked too well, users would find what they needed, and leave Excite's portal immediately, reducing the time spent on Excite, and destroying advertising revenue. He turned down the best search engine ever built, because it was too good. AltaVista passed. InfoSeek passed. Every major internet company of the era looked at Google, and made the same calculation. Search was a commodity feature, not a business. The real money was in portals, websites that kept users inside their ecosystem as long as possible. Larry and Brin had approached every realistic buyer. Everyone had said no. They had no choice but to build the company themselves. In 1998, a venture capitalist named Andy Bechtolsheim, one of the co-founders of Sun Microsystems, agreed to watch a 10-minute demonstration of Google in a Stanford parking lot. Larry and Brin set up a laptop, showed him the search results. Bechtolsheim asked 2 questions. Then pulled out his checkbook. He wrote a check for $100,000 made out to Google Incorporated, before Google Incorporated legally existed. Larry and Brin couldn't cash it for weeks, because they hadn't incorporated yet. That $100,000 returned Bechtolsheim approximately $1.7 billion, when Google went public 6 years later. The fastest $1.7 billion any individual investor had made from a parking lot demonstration in Silicon Valley history. Larry and Brin incorporated Google in September 1998, in Susan Wojcicki's garage in Menlo Park. Wojcicki was a Stanford acquaintance, who rented them the space for $1,700 per month. She later became CEO of YouTube, which Google acquired in 2006. By the end of 1998, Google was handling 10,000 search queries per day. By 1999, that number had jumped to 500,000. By 2000, it crossed 100 million per day. They had no revenue model. They were giving the best search engine on earth away for free, and watching the traffic grow faster than they could manage it. By 2002, Google was impossible to ignore. The traffic numbers were undeniable. The search quality gap between Google and every competitor had widened to the point where users were leaving Yahoo, specifically to use Google, then returning to Yahoo for everything else. Yahoo's new CEO, Terry Semel, understood the threat. He opened acquisition talks. His team flew to Google's offices in Mountain View. Larry and Brin presented the numbers. The asking price was $3 billion. Semel's team spent months on due diligence. Every metric pointed the same direction. Google's growth was accelerating, not slowing. The $3 billion price was aggressive but defensible. Semel's own advisors told him to close the deal. He didn't. He counter-offered $1 billion. Larry and Brin walked away. 14 months later, Google went public at a valuation of $23 billion. Semel called it one of the worst decisions of his career in a 2016 interview. Yahoo's board eventually fired him in 2007. The company he left behind sold itself to Verizon for $4.5 billion in 2017, a company that once had a market value of $125 billion reduced to a rounding error. The $3 billion Semel refused to pay would have saved Yahoo entirely. Instead, it funded the company that destroyed it. Google's first years had no revenue model. Larry and Brin were academics. They believed advertising would corrupt search results, and had written a paper at Stanford, explicitly arguing against advertising-based search engines. Then, they ran out of money. In 2000, Google launched AdWords, a system that allowed businesses to bid on keywords, and display small text advertisements alongside search results. The critical difference from every other online advertising model was that, Google only charged advertisers when someone actually clicked on the ad. Not when they saw it. When they clicked it, every other platform charged for impressions. Google charged for intent. An advertiser paying for the keyword, "buy running shoes," was reaching someone who had just typed, "buy running shoes" into a search box. The targeting precision was unlike anything the advertising industry had seen. AdWords generated $70 million in revenue in its first year. By 2004, Google had $1.5 billion in annual revenue, almost entirely from advertising. The two graduate students, who had written academic papers against advertising, built the most effective advertising machine in human history. In 2004, Google went public. Larry and Brin each owned roughly 15% of the company. Their combined net worth on the day of the IPO exceeded $3 billion each. Graduate students who had tried to sell their company for $750,000 5 years earlier. Google's acquisitions tell the story of a company that kept seeing things before anyone else did. 2006, YouTube. Google paid $1.65 billion for a 2-year-old video platform that had never turned a profit. Every analyst called it overpriced. YouTube generated $28 billion in advertising revenue in 2022. 2008, Android. Google acquired the mobile operating system that now runs on 3 billion devices worldwide. Every smartphone manufacturer that chose Android over building their own system handed Google a permanent presence in every pocket on Earth. 2007, DoubleClick. The acquisition that gave Google control of the infrastructure, running digital advertising across the entire internet. Not just Google's ads. Everyone's ads. Google became the landlord of the entire digital advertising market. Search, video, mobile, advertising infrastructure, cloud computing, maps, email, translation. Each product built around one core asset, data. Every Google search, every YouTube video, every Gmail message, every Google Maps direction, generated behavioral data that made Google's advertising targeting more precise than any competitor could match. By 2023, Google processed 8.5 billion searches per day. Every single one generating advertising revenue. Every single one generating data that made the next search more valuable than the last. George Bell rejected Google in 1999 because it worked too well. Excite filed for bankruptcy in 2001. The company that turned down Google because it was too good, no longer exists. Yahoo passed on Google twice, first for $1 million in 1997, then for $3 billion in 2002. Yahoo sold itself to Verizon for $4.5 billion in 2017. Less than the price tag they rejected. The company that could have owned Google sold itself for less than what Google was asking. David Cheriton, The Stanford professor who passed on the $1 million offer in 1997, did eventually invest in Google's first funding round in 1998. His $250,000 investment returned approximately $500 million at IPO. He got a second chance. Most people who passed owned. Larry Page and Sergey Brin tried to sell Google for $750,000 in 1999. Nobody wanted it. They built it themselves instead. 25 years later, it is worth $2 trillion. They didn't build Google because they believed in themselves. They built it because no one else would take it off their hands. Every person who passed, handed them the company they didn't want to build. Every rejection added another $1 billion to the price of the mistake.